The setting sun bathed the forest in an eerie red glow, but for Yanji, the day felt darker than the longest night. She had heard rumors of the forest, a place avoided by locals, whispered about in hushed tones. It was where the forgotten were taken, a chilling legacy of South Korea's hidden past. Yanji's father, a former prosecutor, had vanished 30 years ago while investigating a mysterious welfare center. Now, armed with only a flashlight, she sought answers. The air grew darker as Yunji ventured deeper into the woods. Her every step was followed by the oppressive silence, broken only by the occasional snap of a twig. Then she saw it, the remnants of a tall concrete wall, weathered and partially hidden by vines. Beyond it loomed a dilapidated building, its windows shattered and its steel doors rustling. She hesitated, but her father's last words in a journal echoed her mind. They must be found. Pushing the creaking gate open, Yanji stepped into the camp. The atmosphere was suffocating, as if the walls themselves were ambushed with the cries of the forgotten. Her flashlight revealed rows of crumbling bunk beds, each one a silent witness to the horrors once endured. A chilling draught swept through the room, carrying with it the faint sound of children singing, a hauntingly cheerful tune. Yunji's flashlight flickered, and she froze. A shadow moved across the far wall. "Hello?" she called, her voice trembling. No response. Clutching her flashlight like a lifeline, she moved towards the shadow. A faint sobbing echoed from the corridor ahead. She followed it, her heart pounding. The corridor ended at a locked door, its metal surface edged from scratches. She pressed her ear against it. The sobbing grew louder, accompanied by whispers. "Don't leave us. Don't forget us." Before she could react, the door creaked open on its own, revealing a room bathed in dim light, blue and unnatural. Inside were dozens of children sitting on the floor, their faces pale and sunken, their eyes void of life. They were clad in tattered uniforms, their heads shaved. Hyunji stepped back, but the children turned their heads in unison to face her. One of them, a boy no older than 10, stood and pointed at her. "You're late," he said in a hollow voice. "They're waiting." "Who's waiting?" Yunji stammered, but the boy only turned and walked around a hidden door at the back of the room. The other children followed, their movements stiff and mechanical. Against her better judgment, Yunji followed them. The hidden door led to a staircase spiraling downward. The air grew colder with each step, and the blue light dimmed until she was engulfed in darkness. The faint shadows of machinery echoed from below, growing louder as she descended. At the bottom, she found herself in a vast underground factory. Conveyor belts lined the room, and figures moved mechanically along them. The faces were obscured, their bodies thin and frail. The stench of decay was overpowering. Yunji's stomach turned as she realized the figures were assembling crude, rusted tools, tools that seemed designed not for work but for torment. Suddenly, a piercing whistle rang out. The figures stopped and turned towards Yunji. As they moved closer, she saw their faces clearly. Sunken eyes, hollow cheeks, expression of anguish, frozen in time. They were the forgotten victims of the camp, eternally trapped in their suffering. A voice boomed from above. Intruders must be processed. Yunji looked up to see a figure standing on the balcony. A man in a pristine suit, his face eerily familiar. It was a man from the old photographs of her father's files, Mr. Park. Your father couldn't stop us, he said, his voice cold, and neither will you. The figures lunged at Yunji. She screamed, her flashlight clattering to the ground, as cold hands dragged her towards the conveyor belt. Her mind raced. Was this her end? Would she become one of the forgotten? As the figures forced her onto the belt, Yunji spotted a rusted lever nearby. Summoning her last ounces of courage, she reached for it and pulled. The factory was plunged into darkness, and the machinery ground to a halt. In the chaos, Yunji scrambled to her feet and ran blindly through the darkness, the youngest wails of the forgotten echoing behind her. She burst through a hidden door and found herself back in the forest. The camp was gone, replaced by an empty clearing. Breathless and trembling, Yunji collapsed to the ground. The whispers of the forgotten filled her ears. Remember us. Tell our story. Yunji bound to do so. The camp might have been erased, but its horrors would not be forgotten. A story of deep supernatural horror with intense feeling of fear, anguish, and pain. You might forget what you heard, but do not forget the pain of the forgotten ones. So come back again at this nocturnal hour to witness another horrifying tale.